Joy, let's come to you first. This is, well, you've been a producer for so many years. You've done Blue Story, you did Boxing Day, and this is your debut as a writer-director in a feature capacity. So I guess, why was this the story that you wanted to tell first?
It was loosely based on my life, I guess. It's like, I didn't go through everything she went through, because that's a lot. That's a lot what she went through. But I've been through the system. I wasn't detained. But when I went through it, for me, it was kind of like how dehumanizing it is, and how you're no more a person and you're just like a number. And, the scene where she's with the guy, the caseworker guy, and he's like, I haven't seen your passport. That entire scene is more or less verbatim for me. So, and I was like, people don't understand this is what it means to go through this, to go through a system where you are seeking refuge, but made to feel like you are a criminal, or even when the people talking to you haven't taken the time to even understand where you have come from. Like the guy who was doing my case, he was like, is there a Brighton in Nigeria? And I'm like, nah, there's no Brighton. As far as I'm aware of, in Nigeria. And so these are things I think we don't really think about. So I wanted to just tell a story that was about a woman who finds herself through love, and she finds that she has choices, and she finds that she has a voice. Because I think that's something I had to go through as well.
Yeah. I think what you said there, I think so much about the story of people who are asylum seekers. What we see in the headlines are numbers, not people. We don't see the humans. And I guess what I found really profound and moving about the film was that it wasn't just one character, Isio, who was humanized. It was everyone who sat, you guys as well, your characters with Anne and Nana. And I wonder if you guys could talk to me a little bit about finding humanity in your characters, where it wasn't just this monolith of what asylum seekers are. Each one has a distinct personality, backstory, experiences. So could you talk to me a little bit about building up the character from the script to what we saw in the final product of the film?
Well, I think firstly it starts with the writing. Joy did a really great job of making us all individual. None of the only thing that was similar between Isio and Farrah is that they were from the same country, but their stories were, and they were both queer, but their stories were completely different, and the reasons why they left were different. So we had a really good starting point, jumping off point, because they were four very distinctly different characters from different places, and they had different reasons for being there. But then we had rehearsal. I had come to rehearsal and I'd done some work, and I like to go through the script and see what the character tells me about the character. So I will write that stuff down. But in rehearsal, Joy asked all these questions that forced us to go deeper, and to even just, what kind of job do you think she had? And I hadn't thought about that, because then that does influence. For example, I said that I felt like Farrah was like someone that, it could have been in interior design, someone that makes a home, and then that influenced how she makes her space in the detention center. So the ability to start with great text, and then to work with four women who could then influence how we were with one another and what our stories were, and seeing how Diana, the choices Diana had made, would make me think, oh, okay, let me think about this slightly differently, or maybe Farrah leads the group slightly different, or whatever it is, So I think a combination of having a good jumping off point and rehearsal, where we were either provoked into thinking deeper or we were bouncing off each other, I think helps.
Well, to piggyback off of that, you said everything. Playing Nana, I just wanted to make sure that she was humanized. It's so easy to just see a character that has a lot of hurt and a lot of pain and moves through the world quite angry, but you miss the humility, the softness, the compassion and empathy that she inhabits, but also is able to give to others. So just making sure she wasn't just this angry person, but understanding why she is that way, and making room for people to see the moments where she lets her walls down, and you're able to see the kind, gentle soul that she was maybe before she entered into this situation. And like Anne said, what did she do prior to this? Like, what made her this way? And with rehearsal, we'll be able to discover everything, and just keep playing. And Joy gave us a lot of room to explore and just to find new things. It wasn't just strictly on like just what's written down. She was like, if that feels uncomfortable, let's try something else.
Yeah. Joy, I mean, it's about love, but also female friendships. And I watch this and I think about like Set It Off, and I think about just because it's kind of at the end now, I'm like, oh my God, this feels like we're going like a real, you're mixing genres here, but you're seeing women who are basically saying like, the system isn't working for us. How do we find our own way through? So I'd love to know a little bit about, I guess, what were kind of maybe the influences in how you wanted to tell this story? I know you talked about like French New Wave being a really big influence, but those ones stick with me because it's just these women like dominating.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, firstly, it's a love story, and me and Anna, when we first sort of started talking about the film, it was about like, we're gonna shoot it, it's a love story, so with colors, and I always think of like In the Mood for Love and stuff like that. I'm always like, oh my God, it's a beautiful film. And I guess it was about how do we find our own version of that. And Anna had this great thing she said about the aspect ratio, and it changes throughout the movie and it just expands, and it was really about us getting into Isio's head, but also she was doing that manually throughout the film, and we're not shooting in order, so every once in a while we're going to have to change what the aspect ratio is. But I think that stuff was really the color palette that Julie, the production designer, brought, and Cynthia and Anna, that we all worked across, was really more about thinking about it as a love story, and about it not feeling bleak, and about just showing migrants with love and color and life and hope. Because ultimately, when you're going through the system, you just have hope. And the genre blend, I love genre, I guess, and it was always a tricky thing, trying to go from love to escape movie, and what that looks like, I guess. And I think did we shoot it differently towards the end to make it more escapey?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a good word. It's a good
Escapey.
Escapey, yeah, sure.
But it's so good that you brought that up, because I think it seems that the more in love Farrah and Isio become, the more brighter like the life is. And you start with like, I don't know, I said this earlier, so no one got the reference, but do you remember watching Bad Girls on ITV?
Yeah.
Like watching that, it was like watching the first bit, it's like that kind of, I don't know, it feels like very like bleak prison, because it's in the prison genre in a way. I know it's a detention center, but it feels like in that conversation. But then, as they find each other, these two women find each other, it suddenly kind of gets a little bit less bleak, it gets a bit more vibrant. So can you tell me a little bit about that story and how that comes in the way it's shot?
Definitely, and we try to introduce the elements of love and sun every time we sing Farrah early on. So it's little glimpses, like she's like this light that gives hope to Isio, and it kind of progresses as they fall in love. I think now watching it today, I was like, oh, it's not just a love and romantic and cute. It's more about when you're in love, you start to learn things about the world and yourself. And the most important thing that Farrah says is, the freedom starts in your mind. And it's her expansion for Isio, is how like she understands she might be captured now, but she's becoming a freer person through this experience. So yeah, we're like, with aspect ratio and like introducing colors and lights throughout, trying to embrace that.
I think what's so lovely is, it's set in kind of one place, and it does feel quite claustrophobic, but obviously we have this, I guess, interior world as well for Isio. But tell me a little bit about like shooting on that location. You said you shot it in 20
days.
20 days? Oh gosh, and not in order, so that has been a lot of it.
I think the room was the hardest to shoot. I feel like we shot every angle possible in that bedroom, with Anna being in every corner possible in that bedroom. But I think the bedroom sort of felt like we were a bit more fluid in how we shot it compared to the rest of the space, because it's warmer in the bedroom. How it gets progressively warmer as they fall in love, with the dream house being the warmest, because I think it's sort of the one that feels so out of grasp for them, and wanted to contrast that with the rest of the space, so it feels a bit bleaker, a bit colder compared to there, but equally sound-wise as well. Like we had this whole thing when they enter the room, Isio enters the room, it's a little bit quieter, but when she goes out, it's a little bit louder, because the idea being the room is her safe space, and being with Farrah is where she feels happier. Just trying to find a way to get you a bit more in her head and how she feels. And also, I think with the dream sequences as well, trying to find a way to make that feel very different to the rest of the movie, like with the masquerade, and just trying to make that feel like it's more space for us to play, because it hasn't got to fit into the same visual world of the film. So I think we sort of gave ourselves different languages to have, and the when they're making the jollof rice, playing with slow-mo, but that was just more about I think for me, I was trying to have them live in their hope or in their joy a little bit longer as they're dancing and cooking, but I was just more about letting them just have that for themselves, because they rarely ever get that as a collective in the film. And I think that was one of the last times we see them happy together before Farrah is taken away. Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see you guys, and especially with you and Ronke, and because I think there's such a beautiful chemistry there that it takes its time, and I think I'd love to just know a little bit about how you build that rapport. How much time did you have before the shoot to kind of work on that chemistry?
Well, was it a week or 2 weeks?
We had 2 weeks.
We had 2 weeks of rehearsal. Ronke and I have known each other. Most of the actors, the black actors.
No,
we all know each other. So, but I'm being facetious, but no, Ronke and I actually had known each other for quite a long time. I've mentioned before, we didn't know each other as lovers, obviously, so we did have to find that was new, that was an exploration. But having 2 weeks of rehearsal, which is so rare, I've never had that actually for an independent film anyway, and so much time. 2 weeks is a long time considering the shoot was only 20 days. But I really love, and when I was just about to give some personal information, and I'm like,
not that one. Intimacy coordinator. We talk about that.
This is being recorded.
I can say this actually. When we were shooting, I just got engaged. So I'm married now, but and so love was very present. Yeah. It was very much on the surface of how I was navigating and thinking about, I was seeing life through a very love-fueled gaze. And so it wasn't too far out of reach for me to think about love and how I explore or how I change and what my body does or how I hide or don't hide, and how love just really just breaks you open. And so I think it was useful to be in that space. And no one knew I was engaged at the time, I don't think, because I don't know, I was keeping it a secret. So it was it was this really lovely kind of secret that I had that I could kind of spoon feed into the choices that I was making. But having 2 weeks rehearsal, I think was really important, because you can go in. What is great about Joy, and I talk about how great Joy is all the time, is that she was the writer and the director, but she was never she wasn't prescriptive. No, I wrote this, so you must say. There was never that. So it allowed me to have ideas, but then look at Ronke and go, oh, but Ronke's made that choice. So really and truly, if she's made that choice, I think that would change what Farrah does. So, but the only way we could do that or find that was because we had rehearsal and we had a director that allowed us to play and allowed freedom. Yeah. So it was a combination of knowing her, love being very, very on the presence of my being at the time, and
we also had a day with the intimacy coordinator before we actually got on set, because we only had 20 days to shoot. So I was trying to the producer brain in me was we need to prep as much as we can to actually be able to shoot this to make sense.
And I'd never worked with an intimacy coordinator before this shoot, and at first I didn't really have an idea of how it would work, how Elle Woods is really, really gentle, and she's so present. And what do you want? And I realised how important and how integral it was actually to have Elle, because Ronke and I came from different places in terms of what we were comfortable with and what we wanted to do. So then the scene had to be choreographed, because it had to be choreographed interweaving what we both wanted, and make it look natural.
Yeah.
And then remember, no, Anne said she don't want to. She said, don't touch her there. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I'm thinking lawyer and intimacy coordinator. Elle Woods, she's great.
Yeah.
It's what you.
He's got it.
But I think that's so beautiful, because actually, like, now it's so interesting looking back and thinking about the look. And you must have been thinking when you were seeing like Anne do those things, like, God, she is nailing this, and knowing that you were bringing.
I'm a very good actor.
Yeah, no, but I think so much acting is like bringing your emotions and then channeling it through your character. So you get the kind of thing in the middle there, right? There's Farrah, there's Anne, and then there's like what you're bringing to it, and it's so.
I think that's the beauty of Anna, though, and our editor, because there were some looks that I didn't realise I had even done, and then but they were captured, and I think there's certain scenes that there was a look that I did, and it makes a scene for me, and I just think, oh, I didn't even realise I did that, but someone saw it and someone kept it, you know, and that's the beauty of having such a great creative team.
Yeah.
It's not just about the performance, actually, it's about the way that it's shot, and it's about the way that it's edited as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before I open it up, Diana, you worked a lot with Aisha Hart on this, and you have a lovely little camaraderie. Yeah, how is that kind of building that friendship? And especially for your character, because there's this what you were saying earlier about you have these walls up, but you're able to let people in at a time, but also as that role, you're kind of unpacking, letting the audience in as well with that. So tell me a little bit about working together.
Just by, again, we had rehearsal. I met Aisha on this job, which is, you know, it's been great. We're great friends now, even after, would it be 2 years out? But even with rehearsal, we were able to just build a friendship. And then the way we shot as well, me and Aisha did everything together. We shared a room together, we ate together, and it really helped foster the friendship and the relationship on screen, because we were building one in our dressing rooms waiting to shoot. So that was a really lovely experience. And again, Nana and Atifa, they were really each other's safe spaces. And then Atifa was kind of the voice that Nana, well, Joanne, didn't have at times. You know, she was able to defend me when I didn't have the words to defend myself. So it was, storytelling wise, it's fantastic to have a person like that in your life who doesn't judge you, who, even if they don't understand you, they've given you grace, and they will always meet you with compassion and empathy. And I think Atifa gave that to Nana, and that was just a joy to play as well. Yeah. So because we fostered this great friendship off screen, it definitely bled on screen, and it was a wonderful experience, and I love her.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Jenkins, he's also inspired by Wong Kar-wai, so I feel like we're both, you know, same level.
Same level.
Doing a little dark.
Same level, guys, same level. Me and Barry, my mate Barry. Fans. But no, it's really Wong Kar-wai. Like, I think there's something about the way he shoots and the way the camera moves that I just really enjoy. I don't know who else we spoke about, to be honest with you.
I feel like I've been thinking about it today, because I was like, people will be asking. And I feel like we quickly walked away from just referencing specific films when we talk about poetry. You send me playlists with music. And we just, spending time in the space as it was building, just taking inspiration from space and like winter light, and just taking it all in and bringing it back. I think it was very intuitive and kind of organic process. We looked at a lot of films together, and then we're like, okay, lovely. Now we're gonna make a new one.
Yeah. Because also we got to rehearse in the space, which was great, and got to just live in that space. So as production design were doing what production design were doing, we were there, so we could see what was happening. So I think it was a little bit easier to know how we wanted to approach it. I mean, I had a whole storyboard that I wouldn't even use. Maybe we used one shot. It went out the window, but like Anna said, it was very like intuitive, and days would change what you think you're gonna do, and we would have ideas in the morning, and some days I wouldn't know. I was like, this is what I want to feel. Anna would make that happen, translate that into actual stuff. But it was very like an organic process, I think, between us, which is great. I feel like she lives in my brain. I guess because I lived that life, I kind of understand. Like Isio is to a large extent like my journey. I had like lots of therapy during writing this to help me understand stuff, and I also think that I also spoke to people who were detained as well, and just to get an idea of their experiences. But I think ultimately everybody had the same thing of like hope and the idea of just what life could be when you leave. And I think for me, it was, again, that love story of when you come in, you're only thinking about how you get out, which is like what Diana's character says. You're never thinking about, like, you're just like, I just want to get out. Like, how do I do that? And I remember from my experience, it was the people and the community around me that really kept me going, because you really kind of get stripped of so many things that you only have the people around you that remind you that you're sane. So it's just more about like, how do we tell a story of friendship, and how do we tell a story of community, and how do you tell a story of love and finding your voice. I always say to people, like, during the pandemic, I had like very intense therapy, because that's all you could do during the pandemic, obviously. And I remember my therapist was like, draw a picture of immigration. And I didn't realize I had created this monster, and I drew this monster. And that's kind of where the masquerade comes from. And I drew this monster, and I didn't realize how much I had made immigration like a thing I was so scared of. But I think once I had done that and realized I was, okay, it's easier for me to overcome that. So I wanted to take all these things and put it into the film. But it was just more about humanizing the character. So for me, ultimately, it's a story about a woman who just figures out that she has a voice and she has choices, and she does that through her friends and love,
Yeah.
Did you guys want to add anything?
Well,
Girl. You girl. I think research, well, as an actor, you do your homework. You want to be as honest and be as immersed as you can in this character and tell great stories. And we had a great story to tell, but there was obviously work for us to do. Me, myself, it's not an experience I've had personally, but I think being born and raised in Peckham, as a Nigerian, you know many people that experience that, and they share their stories with you. And if you didn't hear it firsthand, you heard it secondhand. My mother had friends that were going through these things. So I think throughout my lifetime, even in secondary school, year 9 happened and some kids just went away and you wondered where. So throughout our lifetime, I can speak for my lifetime, I've come into contact with people. So I think pulling from those experiences and, like I said earlier, just trying to humanize these characters, Nana, Isio, Farrah, humanize them. They are humans. They're not numbers. They're people. And hopefully, from all the little, stories that people have told through the years, use that as research and then do extra work. But I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think for me to help humanize Farrah, I spent some time to think about what was at the heart of her, what anchored the choices that she made, or even the silences that she made. And I made the decision that, yes, she was queer, and she'd run away and all of this stuff, and she was in this detention center, but she was grieving. And it's there because she tells you the story, but it's not what she's leading with. And I think that's something that I could connect with, yes, I'm Nigerian, but there were so many things that Farrah was experiencing that I've never experienced. But I know grief, and I know how grief how you can compartmentalize grief, but it still rule a lot of your traits without even realizing. The stoic nature to her, or the warmth but slight coldness. She's in the crew, but she's not really in the crew. All of that stuff. And once I realized, grief is what is at the heart of Farrah, that helped me humanize her. in and amongst all of the dehumanizing things that she's going through. She's in this detention center. She's queer, Nigerian queer, and they can't be queer in Nigerian. But I could find that empathy. I could connect with that and say, oh, okay, that's why she'd probably be maybe more silent in the room, or that's why she's so willing to love, because she lost all of her loves. You know, all of that stuff could influence some of the human choices that I thought that she would make.
2 years later, and I am
She's
still,
not over it.
I'm not pleased. I don't understand. And I've tried as an actor, I've tried as Diana, I've tried. I just feel like they shouldn't have left her. Or, at best, look back. I will take a thinking of you versus a so I just feel like, even when we shot it, when we shot it, it was late at night, it was raining, and we shot it, I was like, Joy, we need one more, we need an alternate ending.
No, it's not. These guys, Diana and Isio were like, Joy, are you sure you a shot of our faces?
Something. I think for me, it's difficult, and I don't know, I just struggled with the idea that you did all that stuff in there, we built this bond, we formed this sisterhood, and again, I understand everyone is in such a dire situation. It really is every woman for themselves. Yeah. But until today, I can't marry that we wouldn't have a moment
So what we're waiting for
to just say,
Right, yeah. No,
is there a Diana Yekinni cut?
I don't know.
I
But
just
no,
don't know.
but in my
Joy, go ahead.
defense, in defense of Joy, for me, the ending is quite hopeful. Is how I find it. I think this is a woman who has found herself and found her voice, and she is, regardless of what happens, she's going to be okay. I think. Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing. I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you.
Oh, sure, man.
No, I just find it funny because we get that question every time.
Every time. And Diana is always angry.
She's ready to go.
She's always angry. And you know, for me, it's like, at the fact, she's got to find her kids.
yeah, I feel like I left her.
No, but Nana, that's, Atifa is her only family, really and truly. So you are going to go. She's like, wherever she goes, you'll
I
go.
just think it's quite an honest ending.
It's
Yeah. Also, it
Like,
felt
if
like
it
she
was-
was
You weren't
progressing.
there.
You had rapped.
I wasn't at work that day, you're right.
She was really, actually, day one rehearsal, I was, okay, guys, let's start. Diana's like, Joe, before we start, the fuck is that ending?
Because what?
I just think if it was a happy ending, it wouldn't allow you to really think about how devastating these stories are. Or people that aren't engaged in these stories, or not, politically engaged in how migrants and immigrants are being treated, would go, oh, okay, see, it's not that bad. And what we need is stories that let us know, no, it's that bad, and you need to be thinking about it. You need to be thinking about how you're voting. You need to be thinking about the attitudes that you have, because it's so devastating. You are so provoked by the way it ends. You're provoked and you're frustrated and you're irritated and your heart breaks and you just want them to have looked back.
Yeah.
I would take a wink.
The thing is, Anna didn't turn around. You don't know if they didn't look back, babe. Do you know what I mean?
I just,
Okay.
Maybe for the 4K DVD Blu-ray release, we might get an extended cut. Please, everyone, put your hands together. Joy and Diana. The film is out in cinemas now, so tell everyone about it. If you didn't like it, shut your mouth. Don't tell anyone, but everyone, great.
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.
Thank you.